Chapter 10. Spiritual Unfoldment, Not Human Birth or Death. In God's creation there was light before there was a sun. In God's creation there was a crop before there was a seed planted. In other words, there were no material processes. That is the secret of Melchizedek. Melchizedek had neither father nor mother. No physical process was involved in his coming into being. Do you not know that that is the true life of you and of me? Do you not know that in our true identity we are Melchizedek, having neither mother nor father? Call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father, which is in heaven. In the Adam dream there is incarnation after incarnation, but in our true identity there is no process of birth or death. There is always the I. I stand back of me, and I know all that is happening to this person called me, and to this thing called my body. But I am not identified with it. I am here, and I was here before I was conceived in my mother's womb, and I will be here if I should ever go through the experience of passing on. I will be out here witnessing it. It will be an experience that will be happening to my body, but not to the I, just as my birth was not to the I of me. I know that I am I, and I know that I took this form, transforming it from childhood to youth, youth to manhood, young manhood to maturity, and I know that this transforming process will continue until one of these days I shall evolve out of this sense of body into whatever the true identity or form of my body may be, because there is an I, and I am that I. I stand here as a witness. I am aware of myself as a person. I am aware of my body. I am aware of you as a person. I am aware that you, as a person, have a body. And in most cases, I am aware of your true identity. I can almost feel the reality of you which lies behind your eyes. That is you. That is where you are. This other thing out here is only the form that you have assumed in this experience for the purpose of expression. Child conceiving and child-bearing are only concepts of human belief. What is called the conception and birth of a child is, in reality, God unfolding, disclosing, and revealing itself. In dealing with cases of unborn children or newly born children, frequently the very first thing that comes to me is that in all this world there is no such thing as a child. To the uninitiated, this may seem like a very strange and startling statement to make, but stop and think for a moment. God is always at the point of absolute maturity. God is always at the point of complete perfection. If you had a developed spiritual vision, you would know that the harvest is already complete before the seed is in the ground. So it is with a child. You may quite naturally ask, why then do we see a person develop, grow from infancy to maturity, and from maturity to old age? What we are witnessing is the unfolding of our concept of human birth, growth, and maturity, not the birth or growth of spiritual being, the Son of God. It is like watching a moving picture that is already complete on the roll of film. We watch it as it unrolls in time and space from beginning to end. But remember that that film we are witnessing was a complete picture before it was shown on the screen. It merely unfolded in time and space to our view. So it is that the maturing of an infant is an activity of God unfolding in time and space. Actually, it was complete from the beginning. It had its full maturity, its complete being in the beginning. Always had it, always has it, and always will have it. Such a realization as this is a treatment to all cases of unborn children and newly born children. God cannot be conceived. God cannot be born. Neither the life of God, the mind of God, nor the soul of God can be conceived. It can only unfold as individual being. In the human realm, there is the seed of the male and the female. No one really knows how those seeds are planted in every individual, and yet what could have planted them within every person but life itself? Are they not the product of life? Life created those seeds, and life functions through the seed so that it does not remain a seed forever. Through this activity of life, the seeds change their forms, and in time, these changing forms become living witnesses. Were the father and mother the creators of the child, or were they merely the avenues or instruments through which the child came into expression? Even from the human standpoint, there is a spiritual or invisible force behind creation which creates the seed. If God is that force, then all that we can inherit is of the Father, Mother God, the emanation of the one life expressing itself, one life revealing itself, one life demonstrating itself, one life manifesting itself, individually, universally, impersonally, and impartially. Certainly that individualization can have no quality that it does not receive from its source. The qualities, nature, and character of God are made manifest in its expression in individual life. It is true that there is the appearance of humanhood. It is true that there is a claim of a selfhood apart from God. When a problem claiming to have its basis in heredity arises, ponder the idea of God, the one life, and the nature of the divine heritage. Realize the divine heritage of man as spirit, life, truth, love, harmony, joy, peace, power, and dominion. Remember such scriptural truths as, we are the children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. What then can be the nature of heredity except life and love? Do you realize what it means to call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father, which is in heaven? If you call no man on earth your father, you have only one parent. You have no parents on earth, so your parentage is not white or black or yellow, not oriental or occidental. Everyone has the same parent, and that parent is the Father in heaven, the one spiritual creative principle. Each one is the Son of God. That some are more educated than others, some more literate or some more cultured, is only an outer development created by environmental circumstances. There is but one Father, one creative principle, and you are heir to all the heavenly riches. You are not anything of yourself, but by sonship, you are all that God is. You have all that God has, because, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. As you attempt to apply this principle of divine sonship, you become aware of certain limitations in your experience and in the experience of those around you. Apparently, everybody at some time or other experiences some kind of lack, presumably due to heredity or to the accident of birth, lack of intelligence, lack of opportunity, lack of education, lack of economic security, or lack of an adequate vehicle of expression. But when you have pondered the meaning of this lesson until you are convinced of its truth, you will understand how to meet every appearance of limitation. The 5 senses may testify to limitation, but I accept only the truth that I and the Father are one, and that all that the Father has is mine. I have accepted my divine sonship. I have accepted myself as an heir of God to all the heavenly riches, intelligence, and unlimited opportunity. No good thing will be withheld from His beloved. Ponder that. Keep that in front of you. There may be days and weeks and months when limitation persists with unremitting force, but that is your testing time. Are you going to believe and accept the appearance, or are you going to hold steadfastly to your conviction? The divine child of God never knew, never knows, and never can know such a thing as limitation in any form. God is my Father. God is the creative principle, and the Son is heir to all the intelligence and wisdom of the Father. God is the quality and the quantity of the Son, His essence, I am, of the family of God. I am an offspring of God, not of man. The contemplation of the truth that you have no earthly parentage, but that the Spirit of God is your creative principle, sets you free from the limitations of humanhood. No longer do you move on the level of humanhood affected by the times and tides of human experience. You are lifted above that, and ultimately you begin to discern the meaning of such spiritual relationships as the basic human relationship between parent and child. Just as the message in this book is not mine, but comes through me as the instrument, so parents are the instruments through which their children come, and although parents are a necessary part of the picture in every person's human experience, they are not creators. God is the creator, and parents are the instruments through which God operates to bring His children to earth. To acknowledge that the only life there is God, and that it is not subject to material beliefs, is the way to maintain the life and vitality of your body in its absolute perfection. Then life is not subject to material conditions or to mental beliefs. It is subject only to itself, which is God, the law, and the life. When you are in that circle called God, what do you see? Life. How old is life? Of how long a duration is that life? What is the nature of life? What do you know about life from the standpoint of spiritual vision? Life is the word that will probably come to you more frequently than any other word when you are faced with a person who appears to be suffering from age or debility. Again, you will ask, what is the nature of life? And the answer will come. God is life. And in that life, which is God, there are no years. Life has within itself the seed of its own perpetuation. It has within itself the law of continuity, immortality, eternality. This eternal, immortal life of God is fulfilled as individual being. There is no age to be dealt with, because I do not have the life of man to improve or prolong. I have only the life of God to behold. Do not fear this human sense of life, or the loss of it. The human sense of life is not your real life. Your real life is the life you are living in your soul. That is your life, your real being. The body is not the governor of that life, but that life governs the body. Life really is the animating principle of the body. The body does not influence you. You influence the body. The body is not a law unto your life. Your life is a law unto your body. The body does not control consciousness. Consciousness controls the body. No religion or teaching, however, no matter how spiritual it is, keeps people on earth in sight of one another forever. All inevitably pass from human sight, but as they gain more enlightenment, this passing is not considered as a tragic experience, because the illumined realize that it is not a part of a divine plan that anyone should remain on this plane and in this form for all time. Just as you outgrew infancy and childhood, just as adulthood merged into the middle years, so will you outgrow this entire human experience. And unless you fight to cling to this present experience, that transition should be a progressive step. Begin as soon as you can to look on the experience of passing, not with horror and not as if it were the end of something beautiful. It is not the end. It is the beginning. It is but the end of one phase of experience and the beginning of another. You surely know that had life on earth been meant to be a continuous experience, the men who have contributed as much to life as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Elijah, Elisha, Jesus, John, Paul, Krishna, Buddha, and Lao Tzu would still be here visible to sight. But with all their understanding and with their great contribution to human welfare, each in his turn had to pass from human experience into a broader field of activity, and so will every human being. Do not look upon healing work as if its object were solely to keep everybody here on earth permanently. That is not its object. Its object is spiritual regeneration, so that as the soul expands, each individual is ready for higher experiences, not only here on earth, but the higher experiences that can come to him as he leaves this earth. Never believe for a moment that any of these men that I have just named, and countless others whom I could name, are dead. Never believe that they are not now as much alive and present as they were when they were visible. Never doubt for a minute but that they are continuing their spiritual ministry, for it is they who are responsible for such spiritual progress as is being made today. It is the truth that they are throwing into consciousness. It is the truth they lived on earth and are still living that those on the spiritual path are catching glimpses of, and that is why the literature of these people lives on. As the Master said, "My word shall not pass away." Those who rise high enough in spiritual consciousness receive and accept these spiritual messages, which are taken into consciousness through the written word. Every time an impartation reaches you within, it comes from God. But is there a God separate and apart from his individualized form? No. God is forever expressing as individual you and me, and that expression continues on into eternity. Each one can discover this for himself by inner mystical experience, and he can find corroboration in the convincing accounts of the mystics of all ages. The mystics, the teachers and prophets of the Old as well as the New Testament, have explained this in such a clear, simple manner that the message should never have been lost, but its very simplicity has blinded men and women to its significance. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Before Abraham was, I am. I am with you alway, even unto the end of the world. Every scriptural promise in the Old Testament, or in the New, that relates to the word I, is your assurance of immortality. How can you separate yourself from the I of your being? Birth has not separated you from it. Death will not separate you from it, nor will accident. I did not begin with birth. I will not end with death. For I am with you since before Abraham. Jesus did not say that he would be with you. He said, I is with you. He said, before Abraham was, I am. And I am with you always, even to the end of the world. If he had said Jesus will be with you until the end of time, there would not have been a Christian religion today, because Jesus is not walking this earth today. You too can say I, and always find it there within yourself. Find the I within yourself. When you are sick, you will find that I is there. When you come to your last moments, I will be there with you. And as you cross that borderline which is called death, I will carry you right across, because I, your individual identity, can never be obliterated. Once you have located God as the I of your being, your permanent identity, you have nothing to fear. If you make your bed in hell, I am there. If you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am there. You have nothing to fear as long as you consciously remember that I am with you. If you are lost in the desert, that I will set a table in the wilderness for you. It will lead you to an oasis. It will keep you harmoniously until you find that oasis, and it will guide you to it. I will. I in the center of your being. In the spiritual kingdom, there is no future tense. Just remember that one statement. In the spiritual kingdom, in the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of peace, joy, power, and dominion, there is no future tense. There is no such thing as time. There is only an eternal now. And in that eternal now, I am. To human sense, this may be a deathbed, or being lost in the desert, or being adrift on the ocean, or suffocating in a burning building. That is what the appearance may testify to. But the answer to it is I am. There is no future tense. You cannot be saved in the future, just as you cannot be saved in the past. It makes no difference what the clock says or what the calendar says. It is still now and always will be now. And it is in this now that I, in the midst of you, am your salvation. The answer to every problem is the word I and the word now. I now am. I now am about my Father's business. And what is my Father's business? To glorify God. You are only alive and well that God's glory can be manifest. That is the only reason you exist, that God's grace may be made visible. Anyone who fears has no God. Fear is atheism. Fear is a conviction that there is no God. The minute you have a God, you cannot have fear. What would you fear? To go through the valley of the shadow of death? Why would you fear that? Is not everybody going to make an exit from this plane of consciousness someday? Has not every generation sent 18, 19, and 20-year-old youngsters, boys and girls, out to get killed at the front? They were not afraid to do that to them. Why should they fear the same experience to which they have subjected these young people? Passing from this scene is not death. It is only death to those who fear it, and they wake up to find out how unnecessary were their fears, and to discover that passing from this scene is but a transitional experience. Everybody has to go through it. Do you think that you or I will be the exception, that we shall be spared? Do you think that you and I are not going to go through that same experience? Never doubt that we shall, because it is not any more a part of God's plan for man to stay on earth forever than it is for him to stay a child forever or to stay 30 years of age forever. I suppose that if you or I were God, we would arrange it so that everybody would remain a glamorous or handsome 30 or 35 always. That would be our idea of an ideal world. But if this were true, I am sure that God would have planned it that way. We live an eternal and immortal life. Whether we are 6 years of age, 60, or 600, we are still living. The body changes from the body of an infant to the body of a child, from the body of puberty to the body of adolescence, from the body of an adult to the body of what we call middle age. But it should never become the body of old age. It should always be the body of real maturity. Then would come that transitional experience of walking right out into our next phase of existence, which is but a continuation of our work on this plane. What is man's state of being when he passes from this world? One thing is certain, and that is that those who are not on the spiritual path will not be placed on that path just by the act of dying. It is safe to assume that they will be in the very same state of consciousness when they awaken as they were when they left here. But, and this I know, not from assumption, but from experience, those who are on the spiritual path, regardless of how little progress they seem to have made, are instantly, by the very act of passing, lifted into a higher atmosphere than they experienced here on earth. In other words, if they are on the spiritual path, the very act of passing is a release from a great deal of this material sense of existence. That does not mean jumping out of a window to attain that release, because that would only be an increase of material sense. But the very act of passing, even when it is brought about through disease or accident, seems to release those who are on the spiritual path from much of the material sense of existence, and they instantly enter a higher consciousness. The ultimate is that everyone eventually attain complete Christ realization. How many days, weeks, months, years, or eons that will require, or how many times we shall have to return to the human sense of existence for another opportunity to learn, that perhaps knoweth no man. One thing is certain, you did not choose to enter the spiritual path. You had no such power as a human being. As a matter of fact, as a human being, you might have rejected this way of life because the spiritual life will not enhance your material sense of good. It opens up a world of spiritual good. That is why people who believe that they can increase their physical health or material wealth through spiritual means have many lessons awaiting them, and perhaps the first of these is that they will increase their physical health and material wealth only in proportion as they drop these as aims and accept as their aim the desire for God realization. It is true that these are added things, but that is not the goal. The goal of the spiritual life is to awaken in His image and likeness and to realize your spiritual identity as Christ, the Son of God.